Hey, what's up? I'm Zach. He's Eric. We're back for Do That But Better. This is episode 12 of Do That But Better. And we're talking about relationships, but we are talking about relationships with food. Eric, how you doing?
Excellent, excellent. And this is a good one because I feel like that phrase "relationship with food" is I don't know if it's a cliche, but it's something that people throw around and don't really consider the impact of that phrase. That it is a relationship with all the emotions and dysfunction that comes along with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll tell you. So take me through a little bit more of that.
So, just like a relationship with a person, your relationship with food has a history, right? Like, uh, you have a history of the way that you learned to eat, the memories that you have, right? Like, you build memories with a person. That's how you build a relationship, is over time. And you do the same thing with food. And if it becomes a toxic relationship, it's really hard to break, right?
Ooh.
It's hard to make that breakup or that separation.
I have never thought of like so I've thought of like yeah the good bad and all these kind of things with your relationship with food, but when you think of like that toxic relationship and how many things do I have that are a toxic relationship when it comes to food.
Totally. Yeah, I've gone through it. I mean, there are funny cases and there are less funny cases.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that if we're recognizing our habits first, um, which I think sometimes it can be hard, sometimes it can be easy, then we can start making a change on what we want to change and what we don't. I mean, just think about how many people will immediately go to I ate bad, or like, oh, this was a good carb, this was a bad carb, this was I'm eating good fats, and even just the names that we give to all these foods,
Hmm.
it's 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 crazy how detrimental it can be. Actually, I was just talking to somebody the other day, and um, they were saying that during the week they do really well, eating really good, um, just clean food. They felt really good about it, and they said then on the weekends it's a dark place, and they're like it's pizza and donuts, and I have ice cream with my kids and like all this stuff. Right now, we started talking about it, and I was like, well, all right, if this is what you're doing and it's not necessarily what you want to do, or maybe it's not getting you to your goals, how do we go about changing this a little bit so that it can still make it work, right? Because most of the times when people are talking about good food, bad food, they're usually talking about how it affects them when it comes to weight.
Yeah.
And you could say performance and all that stuff, but it comes down to weight first. And like, because if you want to say performance, it's like, dude, the way that you eat, yes, it's gonna affect how you perform, but how immediate, right?
Right.
Yeah, but when you look in the mirror every day, and you go, oh, this isn't what I want. It's totally different than, am I going to get 5 pounds on my back squat, or
Mhm.
did I get a little bit better time on my workout, whatever it is. But what we did was we go, all right, on Saturdays they have donuts at their work, right? And they have pizza. So we go, like, when we started talking this out, we were like, all right, I'm gonna have donuts and pizza. And so now it's not a bad thing. And I can actually start setting my day up around, or even my week, that, hey, I'm gonna have pizza. And number one, I'm not cheating, right? Because they even said that, hey, I'm cheating. It was a cheat meal. And really it was like a cheat day. And
Yeah.
they had a lot of shame around it. But now you go, hey, I'm gonna have pizza. And hey, how much pizza am I going to have? Oh, I'm going to have, I'll tell you what, Eric, I don't know if you've ever done this, but you were trying to eat clean and stuff like that. And you start eating and you're like eating like this. And you, like, it's like, who am I hiding from? Like, this is a rule that I made. I'm hiding from myself.
That's just what I was gonna say with the cheat meal, is that you feel like that kid who snuck something out of the pantry and you're hiding, but yeah, exactly, you're hiding from yourself.
Yeah, I'm gonna go. I can do what I want,
Right.
and I might have some pizza. But yeah, so we started talking about that, and we started changing the language around it, and just saying Saturday is pizza day. I'm going to have pizza,
Mhm.
and I'm also gonna have donuts. And as soon as you start saying little things like that, I think that it gives you the okay to have a donut and just have one. Because guess what? I'm going to have it next week and the next week. And the fact that I'm not going to be limiting it at any other time, it like frees you up and you feel good. They also said, hey, on Sundays, I have my daughter and we're going to have ice cream. And it's like, dude, enjoy that. Right. And so now you get to go, guess what? On Saturday and Sunday, I'm going to have pizza. I'm going to have donuts. I'm going to have ice cream. And one of the things that we changed was we said, but for breakfast, I'm going to have protein and vegetables, right? So I want to have the things because it had nothing to do with what they were doing. And it was possibly that they weren't doing these other things.
Yep. Yeah, and just like you said, when you start to change the language around it, a lot of times around this idea of like of dysfunctional relationship with food, you hear a lot of binary language, right? So like I'm either 100% on or 100% off,
Mhm.
right? Like I said, I on the weekends I only eat pizza and ice cream and donuts. Like, dude, you could eat pizza and ice cream and donuts and eggs and lettuce and a hamburger. Like, you can have both of those on the same day, even
Yeah.
at the same meal. It's
Yep.
okay. So breaking down that language barrier um, of this or that, of a binary language, or um, the other one you'll see is uh, something like you can't have broccoli without cheese,
Oh yeah.
right? And so like you create this, you again, an imaginary rule that maybe it served a purpose, like that's how mom always made it, and
Or
that's how
maybe
you.
that's how mom got me to make it or to eat it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so now in your mind, that's the only way that I eat it. That's the only way to eat it.
Hmm.
And once you start to realize the way that you're talking about it is in this like these absolutes and these binary like confrontations, you can start to address them and change them and open up the language a little bit. That like I can have broccoli and cheese, and I can have broccoli and butter, or broccoli and salt, or like or broccoli.
I love broccoli and hot sauce. Actually, like hot sauce is my go-to.
Oh, on everything. Yeah.
And yeah, like it gives you that little bit of salt, it gives you a little bit of flavor. Um, but yeah, and yeah, I like that. Man, I didn't even think about the idea of I have to have this or this. Although you know what? Now that I think of it, um, the one year when we did Christmas at our house, and we decided that we weren't having Christmas dinner, and we decided we were going to have a just an open house. Anybody's invited because we just wanted to hang out with people. I didn't want like the stigma of like we have to open presents, we have to sit down and have this meal. And we had chili. We had a pot of chili on the stove, and uh, like there was definitely some comments. They're like, "What the heck? This is Christmas, and we're having chili." And I mean, there was definitely the whole thing that everybody got the flu, and then they called it the flu chili. But that was totally that was totally separate. But
It was a curse for having chili on Christmas.
but that was probably one of my favorites. And when you talk about holidays, holy crap. Actually, so turnips. All right. At our house, we have turnips and they're actually rutabagas. They just call them turnips. But I hate them. And they're made and I don't think that anybody eats them.
Oh, I love them. Are you kidding me?
What's that?
Oh, I'll eat them all.
No, you do. Autumn says that too. And the bowl has gotten smaller and smaller because mom has realized that nobody eats them. And but that was something that her mom did. That's what we do for Thanksgiving, or that's what we do for Christmas, or whenever we have it.
Yep.
And it becomes that this is what you have to do. And it's like you can have whatever you want. I mean, just think about when it comes to turkey. People eat turkey on Thanksgiving. Why? Like, it's like you can have it anytime you want. And so for all those people that don't like turkey, don't eat it on Thanksgiving. You don't have to. And if you like turkey, why the heck aren't you making it more often? It's a fantastic meal prep because you get a big honking turkey. They're actually pretty darn cheap.
I was gonna say they're super cheap when it's not Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Also,
And we've actually done that multiple times. And you end up having a ton of meat, and it's good lean meat, and it can make you think of Thanksgiving. There you go. Now, good feelings.
well, there's that's like a whole nother rabbit hole of this discussion of like the good feelings, right? Because right, so let's say mom making her turnips, like why? If she doesn't like them, if nobody likes them, why? And it is the good feeling of
Uh-huh.
a memory, right? Because you tie the feelings and the emotions to the food. So I was talking with someone recently um, about when stressful situations, she wants a hot dog and cheese fries. So
Mhm.
she went to Portillo's and got a hot dog and cheese fries. And when we dug into it, what came up was a memory of when her and her siblings, their parents were gone. They went through all the furniture, found all the change they could, and went to the town, whatever, and got hot dogs. And the owner was super nice and impressed with how polite they were and brought them cheese fries. And so, as we're talking about, it's like, okay, so you're stressed out and you aren't craving hot dogs and cheese fries. You're craving, the companionship of your siblings,
Mhm.
right? Like you're looking for comfort from those people and you feel that feeling, you remember that feeling when you have hot dogs and cheese fries.
Oh man, it's like having that smell when you're like, oh, remember that from grade school?
Exactly. Yeah. Or, you smell whatever cookies and you're like, oh, it smells like grandma's house. And
Yeah,
all of a sudden, it doesn't just smell like grandma's house. You feel like you're at grandma's house.
yeah,
And so, you think that you're craving X, but really you're craving a whole nother world over here of like an emotional craving.
right.
How, and even, I mean, like a lighter note, uh, every time I go to a hardware store, I want a hot dog and a piece of candy, preferably a payday.
Yeah,
I never think about paydays in
I
my
was
entire life
I was thinking
unless
orange.
I'm at the hardware store. What?
I was thinking orange slices.
Yeah, because that's what dad gets when you're at the hardware store.
Yep. Yeah.
And it's so irrational and crazy, but that's what comes to mind when I'm there.
Right.
Or, oh, the other one is road trips. Like, I want a random fruity, sugary drink from a gas station and the pull and peel Twizzlers. Because when we went on road trips, mom gave us a big bag full of candy and ridiculous things. And there was a point when we were driving between Colorado and Chicago that I'm like, I do not need to be eating 3,000 calories of candy every every time we go on a road trip.
Like, yeah, you go on like a 2-hour road trip and you stop at the gas station and buy a bunch of crap. And it's like, what in the world? Like, I never do this. And it's 2 hours. I've gone 2 hours without eating before. For
Yeah.
goodness sake.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like these things are tied in, and it's obviously not a physical craving. Like your body doesn't need something. It's the situation that you're in, the circumstances, and right, your brain just kind of does a shortcut of like, in this situation in the past, this thing was there and I felt good. So let's just go for that thing.
Right.
You aren't recognizing that it's not this food that was making you feel good. It was the people around you. It was the situation. It was whatever you achieved, or like it. So your brain isn't making that connection for you.
Right.
You have to step back and recognize, like, first recognize that you're having this craving, and then ask yourself why. Like, what's the need that I'm trying to serve right now?
Right. And you know what? This comes down to like the retrospective bias, right? And so this is the reason that you can drink till you're sick, and then you get the hangover, you get all this stuff, and you say, I'm never going to do this again, and then you do it again because you remember it differently, right? So you're going to forget a little bit about how bad it was, and you remember the fun thing that you did. Or this is old people where they're like, all the good old days. And actually, it doesn't even have to be old. It's just like, man, remember when I was in 6th grade and things were awesome? And when you think about people talking about the good old days when everyone was dying of tuberculosis and all these other things, and you're like, oh yeah, good old days. That was fantastic. Right?
Yeah.
And how hard it was. And yeah, there was the Great Depression, and that was fantastic. Right? But you remember these things and these feelings, and you have a disconnection with how it actually makes you feel. And you see this all the time on those weekends, on holidays, where you go and do the thing that you think makes you feel great, and then you hate yourself for the next week, the next month, and especially if it really gets you sidetracked on your goals, you aren't happy until you get to your goal again. And so if I'm going, well, this, whatever food it is makes me happy, or drinking on the weekends makes me happy, and it's like, oh, and then the rest of the week you're like, oh my goodness, I better go kill myself in the gym because I have to make up for what I did. It's like,
Right.
what do you mean it made you happy?
Right. Yeah, and like, as you're able to recognize what's actually going on behind whatever it is, so like the holidays, um, if you go all out and just eat everything regardless of your goals or what you actually like, if you can recognize that what you're actually looking for, like, I'm looking for that feeling of tradition, right, or being with family and with the people I love, then you can recognize, like, oh, I can be here with all the people in that situation, and I still have that feeling, even though I'm not stuffing myself,
Mhm.
or like I cut back on certain things or whatever it is, that like that you can recognize what you're actually looking for and get that through a healthy way, a healthy means, versus uh, whatever the destructive or negative path that you've been taking.
Right. Yeah.
Oh
Well,
yeah, people too.
what's that?
Well, people kind of like going into that, like, good old days
Yeah.
of like the people that you're around,
Mhm.
right? Because you fill a role within whatever dynamic. So like, maybe you're awesome with your goals all week, and then when you hang out with your buddies on the weekend, the flip, the this the switch flips and you fall into that role from college,
Oh yeah.
and now it's like pizza and beer. And here's where like the relationship with food and relationships with people overlap,
Hmm.
because now let's say if I change my relationship with food, how does it change my relationship, right, like with these people?
I'll say, man, and how many times do you hear stuff like that? Like, um, just talking to somebody the other day, they're like, "Well, my mom makes me this food," and I asked somebody the other day. I was like, "How old are you?" And like, are you an adult? And do you get to choose what goes in your mouth? You know? And so yeah, there is that relationship, and that is a difficult situation, where you you don't want to hurt somebody's feelings, right?
Hmm.
Because something that they're doing is not in alignment with what you want to do. But I think that in that personal relationship, lots of times people's we put words in people's mouth. We go, if I tell them I'm not going to eat it, or if I tell them that I want this, they're going to hate me, or they're going to, whatever it is.
Right. If I reject that food, I'm rejecting mom.
Right. And really, maybe we just have to talk to people about what our goals are, why we're doing it, and how this is going to affect my goal. And especially if they're your friend, if they're your family, if they love you, they're going to be like, oh, okay. And they might even help you with it.
Yep.
And if nothing else, they might even want to do it with you.
Yep.
Especially if you're living in the same house and you're like, hey, I'm really trying to get to this goal. Hey, I'm worried about my health, and this is one of the things that I think I need to change. They are most likely to go, oh, let's do that together.
Yeah.
And
That's a great conversation, because if you don't have that conversation, one, you're imagining that, like I said, if I reject this food, I feel like I'm rejecting this person. And on the other side, I mean, the stereotypical mom food pusher, if you reject her food, like she might feel like you are rejecting her, right? Like her food is her love.
right,
And so having that conversation is huge, to make sure that you're showing that you care and showing them how they can show you that they care.
right. Yeah, it's definitely a hard conversation, but something that I think that if you are finding trouble with other people, if you're blaming your food troubles on other people, then it's time to have a talk.
Yeah.
Because if you feel that it's affecting your health, then or even just your goals, because now that's affecting your happiness, and you have a made up conversation, and it's like, see what they say.
Yeah.
They might even have a solution for you.
Yeah. And it's scary. I was going through this planning for a client. And it's like the married couple,
Mhm.
where one says, I want to change my relationship with food. And uh you know spouses can feed off of each other, right? It's super easy to say we should really cut back on ice cream, and then it hits like 8 o'clock, you're like, do you want any ice cream? Well, I guess so. Okay. Right. And you like talk each other into it.
Yeah.
And so then it becomes, my wife and I want to change our relationship with ice cream or with food or whatever. And then basically take off the ending. Now it's my wife and I want to change our relationship,
Ah.
right? Because that's really where the issue is. It doesn't have to do with the food.
Mhm.
It's with how you're interacting. And maybe there's like, the same thing, a hesitancy to say no to the person that you love.
Right.
And that's a scary situation to get into.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. Like now thinking of that, when eat like every comment or whatever, it is changing the relationship.
Hmm.
That doesn't mean it's bad.
Right.
It might be a change that needs to come.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, you both come out happier and healthier on the other side.
Yep. But yeah, man, I really love that that story that you told with the Portillos. And I mean, that like totally blew my mind. Like, why you're eating this certain thing. I want to know why I'm eating peanut butter all the time. Like, whatever happened with peanut butter that I just can't get enough of it.
Oh, I can tell you for me,
What's that?
because I like almost never ate peanut butter.
Mhm.
Uh, so there are two things. One was a video of Rich Froning where they're like following him around for a day, and he's saying like, "Yeah, I don't really eat all that much, like as much as people think," but he has a giant tub of peanut butter like with him at all times, and he's just eating peanut butter all day long. So seeing that in a time when I was like trying to get stronger and put on muscle,
Mhm.
and then as I was doing that, I realized that we always had peanut butter toast dipped in orange juice.
I love that.
It's so good. And I thought, what if I put peanut butter on an orange?
How was it?
It's amazing. Yeah, you just take orange slices, put some peanut butter on it. It's super juicy. It like breaks down the
Huh.
peanut butter. It's amazing. So then I started doing that, and then I started putting peanut butter on bananas and apples. So basically, I only eat fruit with peanut butter.
See, now, I mean, I take it one step further and I basically only eat it on a spoon.
Well, yeah, I only use a spoon to scoop it onto the fruit.
Yeah, man, actually, Maddie really loves the peanut butter toast with orange juice now. And if you haven't tried it, man,
Oh yeah.
peanut butter toast, dip it in your orange juice. I don't know why that is so good. I want to know where it came. Like, I know that mom had us doing it, but I sort of wonder if it was like, hey, we don't have anything else, like just dip it in there, or if that was a thing at any time.
Yeah, I have no clue. But I know, I mean, with the peanut butter and orange juice, you've got salt, fat, and sweet.
Yeah.
You can't go wrong.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, other things too, I got into a cycle of, again, like trying to bulk up and get stronger, where I would eat this giant plate of potatoes and eggs and whatever, like every day.
Yeah.
And then when that routine started to get broken up, or like I changed my goals, it was really hard to stop.
Mhm.
And like I would feel frustrated get it when I didn't have it, because in my head there's a story going that window of gains and eat big to be big, and I'm like, I have to have this meal in order to perform well.
Right.
And it took time for me to like get out of that mindset and be okay eating other stuff, just having a couple fried eggs versus scrambling them into a giant pile of food.
Yeah. Actually, I had similar, like the leanest that I ever was. I was eating like 6 meals a day. It was very planned out. And like number one, every time that I would come home, I would have my final meal, which it was casein and usually peanut butter, depending on where I was cutting. And like I was so religious on this. Just it was basically eating every couple hours, and it felt great because I love to eat. Like I enjoy having food in my mouth, right? And so it like when I was not doing it anymore, it was really difficult, and especially if I wasn't planning my food then, like so if I wasn't meal prepping or something like that, then it was like just grazing like crazy. And it was like because everything was associated with, hey, I do this then a meal, do this then a meal. So if you ever get done with anything, it's like I better grab some food. And it was really hard to go, all right, I'm just gonna I'm gonna go a little bit without food, or I don't have to have the exact amount of protein at every meal. And that got really hard for me. Actually, what I ended up doing was I did a 2-day fast because I was like, I don't need to eat. I can eat. And so I'm not suggesting that everybody goes and does a 2-day fast, but it was something that helped me just get out of the mindset that I have to have something in my mouth every couple hours.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we all love laughing at Pavlov's dogs. We are all Pavlov's dogs,
Oh, absolutely.
right? Like finishing something was a trigger to eat.
Mm-hmm.
Doing a workout was a trigger to have this specific meal.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
and that's exactly what we're talking about here. Being around certain people is a trigger to do this. Being in this circumstance on this holiday is a trigger to do that. And you can't break it. There's no researcher around to to condition you otherwise.
Right.
Like you are your own researcher.
Yeah.
So that's really, the takeaway of this, I think, is really to pay attention.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Notice when you're eating, notice why you're eating.
Right.
Be like, why am I craving this thing in particular? Why do I eat this way? Why do I eat at this time? And when you start to ask some questions and look at yourself from like a third party view, put on your own coaching hat and say, like, if I was coaching me, what would I see here? Then you can start to address it and just start to notice those things, those weird habits where things start to link up. Of like, I always go to the break room and grab donuts after this meeting, this weekly meeting. Well, what's going on at that meeting? That's, how are you feeling after that meeting? That's leading you to the break room for donuts.
Right. Yeah, I love that. I think that's a great place to end it. But yeah, find your habits. Notice why you have them. Notice that you have them,
Yep.
and then you can start making change. Have a better relationship all around.
And this is another area where having a coach helps.
That's
Reason to have a coach.
Eric, if anybody wants to reach out to you, where can they contact you for nutrition help?
You can hit me up at Eric McGathy on Facebook and Fit to Thrive Nutrition on Facebook and Instagram.
Awesome. You guys, this is another episode of Do That But Better, and we will see you next week at 2:00, Tuesday, 2:00. See you later.
See ya.
See you, Eric.